What's up YouTube? My name is SRT Bill, and tonight we're going to be doing an install video for the Legmaker intake on our 2023 Dodge Durango SRT Hellcat. It should be a good one. Alright YouTube, so there's a couple things we're going to need to install this properly. First off, we've got our sockets. We've got a 10mm deep, a regular standard 13mm, and the smallest being an 8mm. Of course, we've got a ratchet. We're also going to want to have a pry tool, a Phillips flathead, a little lube, and the WD-40. And that is it. Of course, you can see we've got the air filter, the actual intake, the air shield, and not gonna lie, I leave some instructions around. I am not a professional. I am more of a do-it-yourself enthusiast. So once again, I always recommend a professional install, but for those you DIYers out there, this should help you out. All right YouTube, so the first thing we're going to do is disconnect the air intake temperature sensor from the stock box, set it over here to the side. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to free the solenoid hose by just pushing in and pulling out. And then of course we're going to use a flathead or a pry tool to disconnect the sensor or the connector from the solenoid to give the harness some slack. Real simple, just loosen it up. And you'll want to come around here. You'll see it's very simple. Pry tool, loosen this part, pry tool up, and it comes right off. So now we've got some good slack for the solenoid harness because we will be relocating this later during the install. Okay. Alright guys, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take a ratchet with our 8mm socket. You can also use a flathead screwdriver for this part, and we're going to loosen the clamp on the throttle body here. And it is easier to finish it off with the flathead. Get it nice and loose because we are going to remove this as a one piece. Second one. Did I just really tighten it?
No.
Okay, it's good loose. Okay. Alright, next thing we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing for the clamp going into the actual air intake. Just get this one good and loose as well. 8mm socket or flathead screwdriver. Alright, so now the two clamps are loose, we're going to go in here and loosen the screws on the actual air box itself. And remember, be very careful when you get these out because at a certain point they're going to wobble and you do not want to lose a screw in the bottom of your vehicle. Alright, next thing we're going to do is we're going to take this piece out as one piece. So we got this part off. Move that wire out the way. Lift up. And we pull it out. So there is your factory air box in one piece. Yeah. Alright YouTube, so we kind of made a little bit of a mistake here. We should have taken this out all at once. I thought these were bolts holding it in place, but instead they're just like little stems that just keep the air box locked into place. So As you can see, we just need to pull this up and pull this out. And it's got a tough one here on this right side, close to the wall, but we've got it up. Boom. Airbox fully removed. And of course you can see what is left. All right guys, this is very important once you remove the factory airbox to set this down straight like this. You can see inside there your air intake sensor is in there. It's very fragile and it's important to keep this piece upright so that we're not damaged, because it will be reused later during the install and cut. All right guys, so a little sharp handy knife will get these little plastic things off the solenoid. This was per the instructions. So if you don't like the way I'm doing this, please flame me in the comments. There's one. And there's two. All right, those were in the instructions from the Legmaker, so don't at me. Next, we're just gonna lift firmly up here and remove the solenoid from the factory airbox. Actually, now that I think about it, there's really no other way to get those off. All right guys, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna move the factory air intake temperature sensor. Simple. Turn 1/4 inch counterclockwise and pull straight up. So we got it turned. Trying to be gentle here with it because we don't want to break it, but there it is. So now that is removed, we can set this to the side. All right, YouTube. So the next thing we're going to do is install our reducer. This is where we need our long boy 10mm socket. Make sure we don't tighten this too tight, but we do not want to warp the reducer, but we do want it nice and in place properly. We are good and secure. All right, YouTube. Next thing we're going to do is install our water repellent sock on the filter. This will be somewhat of a tight fit, but it should fit nice and snug. By the way, these filters are pre-oiled, which is really nice. Nice and snug. Alright YouTube, so next step is we're going to make sure our clamp is around the flange of the filter. Lay our towel down, set the filter down with upward, and we are going to install the actual inlet on the filter. We want to make sure this goes in at least an inch into the filter. Now that our intake is installed, we're at least about an inch in. Want to make sure you can measure thereabouts with your finger. And of course we're going to want to put our clamp back over it. Okay, clamp is on. We want to leave it loose for now. We don't want to tighten it all the way just yet. There we have it. That's what it looks like. And alright YouTube, next thing we're going to do is we're going to insert the air intake temperature for this little grommet right here. A little bit of lube can help you get this in here without having any serious problems like the O-ring coming out of place or the grommet going all the way through the air intake. Alright YouTube, now we have the air intake temperature sensor in. We're going to install the air intake into the silicone reducer here. We want this angled down in here into the inlet where the air will actually flow. We may have to adjust this to bring it up some. The hose wants to be underneath. Maybe we can just put it like that. All right, YouTube, now we've got this position. We want this facing down again where the air is coming in here. We had to adjust our reducer on the throttle body, so we're gonna go ahead and tighten everything again. Make sure that we're not tightening too tight here because we could warp everything and that. Next thing we're going to do is just put the air intake temperature sensor back on, and then we're going to relocate the breather here. So we're going to install the tube. Alright, so now we're repositioning the solenoid. Of course, we got our tubing with our 90-degree bend because, as you can see, we're going to connect it to the underside here. Got these pinned in. Allen wrench will be needed. Get this hooked back in to the airflow, and then of course the connector. Out of the way? Yeah. All right. Okay, YouTube. So now it's time to mount the solenoid. You will need so we are going to need a 13 millimeter. Get this one off. YouTube. So this was definitely the most complicated part of the install here. As you can see, we've relocated the solenoid. We've used this most interior bolt here. The extension was not quite, was a little small, and so we used our impact wrench to actually get it down there and widen that hole just a little bit. Made it a lot easier. We had to finagle the harness here just a little bit to give it some slack to be able to hook up correctly, and then you did want to adjust where it actually goes into the solenoid. So as you can see, we're all connected right here. Next thing to do will be tighten the solenoid in place, install the rain shield, and of course tighten this clamp here and let her rip. So stay tuned. And as you can see, as it gets good and tight in there, it adjusts in nicely, and we're not touching anything, maybe just a slight touch here, but we do have some heat protection. Okay. Alright YouTube, so the next thing we did was remove this little plastic piece here. You can see it has got push pins. You're going to want to save one for the install of the rain shield. This was actually really easy with the pry tool. You can set this to the side. You will go underneath the hood seal to install this piece. And of course, the first thing you want to do before you install this part is to make sure that we have plenty of coverage. We do not want these two pieces touching. So we're going to make sure we do that and then go from there. All right, YouTube. So we've finally gotten the rain shield installed. We've got the push pin here and the bolt here. This was a little tricky as far as keeping the air intake stable and in the same spot so we don't get any rub or touching here, because Because this moves up, we're going to want to make sure that there's none of that going on. And it is tight in place, and this is what it looks like completed. Now for the favorite part, for the test drive. Alright YouTube, there you have it. There is the Legmaker air intake install completed. Right now this is done mainly for the sound, the supercharger whine, but I do have some plans to build this vehicle in the future, so stay tuned and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Got a lot of content planned. We've got a Corsa air intake installation on our last call charger to do, and then we've got the 2023 Hellcat Red Eye review coming up. So stay tuned. Catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.